Jim, one of the things I always notice about Mr. Lewin, who's the prosecutor who is making the argument that said, hey, this really is not as bad as they're saying, and we need to go forward with this trial. He is just brimming over with emotion every time I hear him speak. How do you think that plays to a jury?
Well, he's passionate about the case, and he's passionate about going forward. I mean, justice delayed. I mean, this murder happened 21 years ago, and it's a 5-month-long trial, and the defendant is obviously in ill health, but is he in too ill health to allow it to go forward? It's like deja vu all over again. I feel like I'm watching the same hearing that I watched yesterday where they're saying that Mr. Durst is too ill to go forward. Look, he is in bad shape. There's no question about it. But yet, is he able to stand trial? And it appears as if he was able to stand trial last week, he's able to stand trial this week. Nothing has changed.
And looking at that picture, Jim, that was just on your screen of him recently, and that was yesterday, and they put a blanket over him so there wouldn't be prejudice to the jury. They don't have to see the jumpsuit. There you see it with the blanket. I don't think he looks any different there. They say there's a catheter, and they did cover that up. Again, reasonable steps to take so that there's no prejudice to the jury either direction, quite frankly. But I don't think he looks that much different. He's still physically able to sit there. Is that enough?
Not according to this judge. I mean, they put so much resources into this trial already, the long delay because of COVID last year. They started the first 10 witnesses and then started up again earlier this year. So I think that there's too much of an investment in this. And let's face it, if there was a mistrial now, you're never going to have this trial. I think the feeling is this guy got away with murder 3 times, acquitted once for the case in Texas, twice with his ex-wife and his longtime companion, so that at least that the justice system should take its course and he should be decided upon the witnesses and the facts of this case. But in terms of sympathy, he is this frail old man with a blanket around him. So if it inures to anybody's benefit, it probably inures to Mr. Durst's benefit. I mean, there's this view of why put him in prison when his body seems to be imprisoning him in some way, given the way it is. But I think that I agree. The investment in the trial has happened. It's going forward. You've got to get through this. It's only delaying things to have his medical condition brought up each and every day or each and every week, and they should just get on with the witnesses and get closure in this case for everyone.
Because, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the state of a defendant. If someone has been accused of a crime, is facing trial, and is at trial, well, then it doesn't matter if they're old, if they're frail, if they're handicapped. It doesn't matter what their appearance is. Under our law, they still can be tried, still held accountable by a jury making a decision as to whether or not they are guilty of the crime with which they're charged. So it's no different for a Durst. Do you think, in your opinion, that his mind is still intact? Because I believe, have no doubt, that mentally he is very astute, aware, and able to participate in his defense and talking to his lawyers.
Judge Wilcott, it's hard to know because we're not hearing from him directly, right? So, but yes, I mean, this is a person who is the master manipulator. I mean, he posed as a mute woman in Texas after Miss Berman disappeared. So, I mean, he's someone who has basically manipulated the system for, decades and gotten away with it. He expressly said, I will pretend to be senile in order to not have this go forward. So we're not hearing anything in terms of anything dispositive about his mental faculties. It's really his physical body breaking down. And while that's tragic, it doesn't mean that the wheels of justice shouldn't turn towards a conviction if the evidence warrants it here.
Yeah, and, all of these attorneys are very passionate about their respective positions. And it's always interesting to me when you listen to attorneys argue. I felt like Mr. Lewin, the prosecutor, had a valid point when he said, listen, the attorneys have 3 days to go home, and they do, and they're not here meeting with their clients. So how can they argue that it's too hard to have him participate? They're not even trying to meet with them. And then the defense attorney comes back with, okay, face-to-face is extremely limited during the pandemic. We can't meet him face-to-face. There's one room. Reservations fill up. So you hear compelling arguments on both sides, although I think the judge is likely to say we got to go forward.
Well, what it really means is what he points out is that it's ineffective assistance of counsel in every case then because of the inability to meet with clients, if that is the case of our Los Angeles County jail system. And this courtroom actually is within, not a far drive from where I'm speaking now. It's down the road. And of course, we've had this, there's been issues with LA County Jail for decades in terms of the security of the inmates there and all of the problems. So the problem that he's speaking about in the Durst case exists in each and every case and does not warrant a mistrial or a continuance of this trial based on Mr. Durst's medical condition.
What a great point. And I so appreciate your own personal perspective that you can offer to share that with us, because it makes great sense. It shouldn't be any different, nor is it different for Durst. All right, we are going to take a break. When we come back, though, you won't want to miss